If you don't use it, you lose it. And we know that with every resource that we have within our bodies. If you don't use your muscles, your body is going to use that muscle protein for a different function, simply because there's no use in keeping it alive if I don't need it. Now, the diaphragm, which is the predominant muscle for inhalation, is underused and misused most of the time. And if you don't use a muscle through its full range of motion, it's not going to acquire strength in a full range of motion, which is important why your squats, as long as you don't have any joint issues or any contraindications, your squats should be full depth. Your bench press should be full depth. You're not going to get strong in a range of motion that you don't train in. That is exactly the same case with the diaphragm. If you don't breathe in all the way and contract that diaphragm in order to draw as much air into your lungs as possible, one, it's going to fatigue rather quickly when you do that. Just like an inexperienced runner gets up off the couch and decides to run, their legs start burning within the first 3 minutes. It's because that muscle is not used to that kind of activity. So the most important thing with breath work is making sure that your breathing muscles are balanced, efficient, and strong, and worked through a full range of motion. And you'll see that when you do begin doing deep breathing, forgetting about, the cascade of positive effects that it has on the body, thinking of it purely in terms of a muscle and range of motion. If you begin exercising it and exercising it to fatigue, where you breathe in as deep as you can, doesn't matter, nose or mouth, you breathe in as deep as you can and you hold it there. You don't block it there. You hold it there. You keep that muscle under full tension for a moment or two, and then you breathe out slow and under control as much as you can. And then you do it again. You'll find that it actually gets tiring, because that, you're working a range of motion that you're not used to, with an intensity and a load that you're not used to. So really, to maximize the benefit of any kind of breath work, you've got to maximize the economy and the usability of your diaphragm. So that diaphragmatic breathing is critical. Once you've been able to achieve that, now you can change the alkalinity of your blood to a much greater degree that you could otherwise. You can change the oxygen content of your blood to a much greater degree that you could otherwise, because this air pump is now working at full capacity after decades or years of being trained to work minimally and only as much as is sufficient for daily life. And if you sit down all day, if you're driving, watching TV, sitting in an office chair, you don't need to exercise that diaphragm. It doesn't need to work through a full range of motion, because barely on is on enough. So exercising that muscle, making sure that it's strong and you continue to make it strong, allows for everything that happens downstream to happen to a greater degree, more efficiently, more effectively, and have a greater positive consequence to all of the benefits to it, whether it's, the alkalinity, the oxygen, the neurochemicals in your brain, and everything else that kind of goes along with it. So the very first thing I do with my clients is I teach them how to exercise that diaphragm. And then I encourage them to exercise it while we're exercising and while we're doing whatever our workout is for that day. And I think it's a huge thing. I think that everybody's performance, whether it is mental, spiritual, or physical, is limited by their ability to breathe effectively and breathe deeply.